about AI, we're going to talk about deep fakes, we're going to talk about the truth, and I'm very proud that our next speaker is here with us. He received his PhD at the Computer Vision Lab at the University of Amsterdam, the lab Theo Geven, but he's also an entrepreneur. He's the co-founder of a company called 3D Universe, 3D Universum, and he's going to tell us all about the truth in a fake era. Please welcome to the stage, Mr. Cesar Karaoglu.
Thank you, first of all, for your nice introduction, and thanks for having me here. It really feels like home. It's like our office, that we're brilliant minds, so I will not feel awkward here. So just to notify you that we don't have such designers, so what you're going to watch is purely nerd slides, so sorry for that. And as you may notice, we are not yet a unicorn, and you may not know much about 3D Universum. And I was thinking how I can do a small introduction about the company, and then I come up with an idea that if I do this introduction, it will be too biased. And then I was thinking, okay, who can do this introduction on behalf of me, and everybody from the audience will know him, and actually would directly believe what he's telling. Please welcome Donald Trump, the person who invented fake news.
Let me tell you something about this 3D Universum. They're total losers, okay? They act like, oh, 3D, it's gonna be the greatest thing ever. But do you remember Jaws, the movie in 3D? Exactly, nobody does. And this AI technology video software, all you need to know is, it's fake. Like me talking right now, totally fake.
Okay, this is pretty obvious. This video is synthesized or doctored. However, in real life, the reality may not be this obvious. And that's what I want to check ourselves, that how much we know about deepfakes or how aware we are about deepfakes. So I have a simple test for you now. Who thinks the one on the right image is fake? Okay. And who thinks the one on the middle is fake? Okay. And who thinks the one on the left is fake? Well, you are all right, because they're all fake. We are already at a moment that human eye actually cannot distinguish what is real and what is fake. And if you didn't guess correctly, don't worry, because you're not alone. We had done an online test with more than 30,000 people attended. We asked them 12 different kinds of questions showing real and fake images, and we asked them actually to detect it. And imagine this test was really task-driven, so people were aware some of them are fake and some of them are real. And it turned out of 30,000 people, only 20 people could make 12 out of 12. And I doubt that those 20 people were actually our team members. And what strikes me more is only 15% could score better than random. So they did actually more than 6 correct answers. So deepfakes are actually our reality. But video content manipulation was there for a while, and it can be quite harmful as well. I don't know who of you has already seen this video online. Right. So for those ones who didn't see it, I just want to show briefly. I just wanted to show this video to realize that actually content manipulation can be harmful, and how this can be harmful actually. This video was released 3-4 months ago, and I just wanted to see what is the post, what people think about it. And it was clearly stated by the directors that this video is fake and is generated by CGI technology, people still wanted to believe this is real, and they start conversations about it. And there were two common beliefs. One, immediately ban AI development because they are going to kill us. And the second, that we should protect robot rights. So even though this was clearly stated, a fake video, people still create some kind of speculations about incorrect things. And CGI technology was actually there for a while. It has been a long time there. As that in Forrest Gump movie, that Tom Hanks will not be able to meet President Kennedy, or in the Fast and Furious movie, that in the seventh version, that the main actor actually passed away, so they need to replace himself with his brother. So this technology was already there. But why it was not considered as a threat to society? Because it requires a lot of time, effort, and money to develop such things. But today, with the availability of all mobile applications, we don't need that much of resources or time. You can just use your mobile phone to manipulate content. And that is where the line that we consider this as a threat to society. And all these applications released within the last couple of years, but there is one, because these are all image-based generations. And there is one which actually released by Snapchat in May, and it was downloaded within a week. It was downloaded 2 million times, and this is. Of course, you can still see artifacts, and of course you can see a lot of fan factor in it, but can you imagine this technology is being used in dating sites for identity theft, which is already done by many other techniques for scamming old people to get their money out. And this is a technology which can be abused targeting such purposes. And what if I told you that I actually acted in Hollywood movies before I started my career as a CTO or a researcher? Possibly, some of may say, yeah, sure, and some may say, yeah, come on, you nerd, that's not possible. But if I show you actually this video, then it puts you doubt in your mind. Is it really true? So, what I'm trying to say is, seeing is no more believing. Because what you see may not be always truth. And like at the beginning of this summer, while I was working quite a lot with this deepfake research on generation and detection techniques, I was considering myself, yeah, this is a far-fetched, this is just a scary scenario that media likes to exploit things, but just when I had this thought in June, just after a couple of weeks, this application by Chinese company Zhao called, it just requires a single image of yours to manipulate the full video content. And it happens only in 6 seconds. And this is just a mobile application that you don't need any education or knowledge or any kind of resources. Of course, you can think yourself, or you can imagine next generation of Netflix, you sit on the sofa and you want to be Brad Pitt in some movie. And you will see, that's okay. Or next generation of commercials that you will be trying to sell yourself some items. Oh, this t-shirt fits me very well. So this will be the next generation of content personalization. And this is already happening. But imagine also yourself in adult industry movies. This is so easy to happen. And maybe not yourself is vulnerable at this point, but considering how kids can be cruel, and you know a lot of bullying stories during your high school or education, that this tool can be used by kids just to make fun of their friends, and the life of victims will be quite damaged. So in order to understand better, or ourselves to detect these deepfakes, I think we need to deep dive into a little bit how these techniques or how these deepfakes are created. So is there anybody from the audience who played with these tools actually to create deepfakes? That's good, but I'm pretty sure you all did, but you are not aware. Because how do you consider a deepfake? It is a doctored image or with an AI algorithm. And all of your mobile phones, actually when you take a picture, is synthesizing. The raw images are no more there. When you take a selfie, it does beautification, it does changing the environment, it does all kinds of processing, which is actually creating synthetic media. But you're all aware what we are talking here is about more harmful content creation. So I consider to categorize them in two. One is replacement techniques, and the other one is basically creating from scratch. And if you go into replacement techniques, then there are two as well. One is face swapping, and the other one is facial reenactment. And I will go each of them individually so that actually you can realize by yourself the vulnerabilities of such techniques. So in order to make a face swap, what you basically need, two faces. And then extract key points from there to be able to actually replace them. Once you extract these remarks or the key points or facial landmarks, then the next step is actually to convert them into a geometry so that actually you can swap these faces. And then at the end, you swap and then do some extra operations like blending to make the smooth skin transitions. But in all of these steps, if you make a single mistake, then it actually contributes to the errors that are visually visible to human eye. But if not, if all conditions meet the requirements, then you will see such examples.
Third grade, in fourth grade skill, the definition of cheap thrill. Like watching farm equipment rust is watching an impressionist. Relic from a distant day that long since should have died away, dishonorably mentioned is the pitiful impressionist.
So this is if everything is like controlled, like in this example, the actor is very frontal, where the lighting is controlled, all the actors, the other one is replaced is with well skin tone aligned. So when you really control the environment, these deepfakes can actually work quite well. But of course, everybody has been developing codes, and you also have bugs, or you have so-called bad results, such as in these examples. But AI algorithm doesn't really know what's the face, it just do its best to predict what's the face and then swap it. But besides the early attempts of these failures, there are other failures as well, such as if landmark detectors doesn't fit directly on the boundaries of the face, then when you swap it, you will see some skin inconsistencies. Or the lighting is not taken into account, so when you change with a completely different light, then you will see artifacts on the face. Or if you want to change a person with hair on the forehead, and with the other person doesn't have, that you will see on the leftmost image that you have inconsistencies in the blending part. So the second type of deepfakes that I have categorized is generation-based. And I don't know how familiar you are with the generative adversarial neural networks, but I want to give a really a simple explanation to it, if there is any. So just taking a random noise, starting point, and then you try to create your target set from your training. So the algorithm tries to learn how a digit, and in our case, face looks like. So within the common sense, if you collect millions of faces, that although we have diversity, ethnicity changes, or skin color changes, we still have the similar structure of our face. So the algorithm can actually predict what an eye, what an eyebrow, and what a face looks like. So that's why the algorithm, it is easy for an algorithm to generate such information. However, when you think about the unobservable part, such as accessoires, or hair, unstructured, or background, so there is no common ground for all these other parties of the image. So for generative models, it gets difficult for non-frequent objects in the scene to generate. So that is where you should look at for a generative model where it's going to mostly fail, that we can actually detect them. But my statements are for today's world. So considering starting from 2017 to 2019, the algorithms enormously developed. And it started to become like the first 3 images that I showed you today is the result of style gun paper, which is actually convincing enough that we will not be able to differentiate them. But just after 6 months, the same authors released another paper called Style Gun 2, which is even making it more difficult to detect. And not necessarily to you to generate directly from a starting scratch point, but what you can do is also take 2 faces and blend them, so that actually you create somewhat similarities. And there are some studies done on this regard, that you're considering a latent space of again, and just use an existing face and try to fool authentication systems. And the algorithms could fail the face authentication systems, where it was 99% accuracy, they could reduce the accuracy to be 84%. So this is already happening, that your images can be taken and actually used for failing the authentication systems or using your faces for passing the authentication systems. Or you can think about an artistic way of creating new faces, with just taking different attributes from different people, and you create basically new people. So, both of these methods have some vulnerabilities and powerful parts. And in our company, or in our research domain also, what we try to build a hybrid system. Take the powerful parts of these 2 methods and create a new method. Basically, what I was telling, okay, some parts are good, because if you don't have any conditioning on the GAN, it almost starts from a random point. So using generative model, or the replacement model for a conditioning of the GAN, it actually can constrain quite nice visual results. But as I said, you need to take into account lighting, you need to take into account expression, because what makes an image is taking the 3D world and mapping it to 2D. And when you consider a face, you have your identity, you have your geometry, you have your skin color, and there's environmental factors, which is illumination. But when you want to change an expression, you shouldn't touch the other components. You should just play with the expressions. And that's what we are actually using the replacement techniques for. And the result is something looking like this. So I just want to give you also an idea of how these, the composition of the faces looks like. So if you consider Obama's face without the illumination factor, just using his identity and skin color, it turns out to be something like this. And if you will just consider his geometry and also the lighting, then you have something on the left side of the video. And this technique is now exactly being used in movie industry. I don't know if any of you reached to a level to finish Irishman at one shot. Congratulations. And it was statistically proven that it was 85% of the people who do halves or even more parts. But that's not the topic. So in that movie, which was actually nominated for Oscar for visual effects, that most of the job done in an irregular way. So the actors didn't need to wear these expensive markers or things, but it was purely based on AI. And this is exactly similar to what we are doing, of course, with all those expensive and fancy cameras, rather than the webcam that I'm going to demonstrate, but it is already started using in the movie industry, like in this example. For the aging of the actors, they actually use a similar techniques. So, what I have been talking about Zao application, that it is impressive, that it can process everything in real time, in 6 seconds, and also just with a mobile phone. And what I'm going to show, and promise that you have never seen it before than this stage. So I'm going to demonstrate a live deepfake that's actually going to run everything locally in this desktop, laptop, and everything you will see instantly. Can you change the screen to... Sorry for this. Yeah, perfectly, thanks. So there are other deepfakes that we could actually use, but we usually use Trump because you never know what he says is true or not. So it makes it more believable actually. So you see me on the left side and on the right side Trump, that instantly whatever I say, basically I put words in his mouth. So, basically I just wanted to show you this one to raise awareness that how this technique is already in the hands of developers. Okay, at this moment in high-end developers, but which doesn't mean that this technique will not be at public. And I'm pretty sure there will be many creative people that comes up with different useful applications of this, but we need to be aware of the misuse of such technology as well. Is it possible to go back to? Yeah. So, speaking about the visual content generation, but what about the audio? So, because that's the most difficult part to convince people, because for these public figures, it's very easy to spot these deepfakes, because you know them by heart, how they speak, how they act, how they be in the media. But what if you would actually use their own voice to manipulate their content? And this was done by a recent research group that is actually doing exactly the same thing. You take a longer sequence of a video and then you just basically change the text that the person you want it to say whatever you want. And it's like this example.
The market closed today with Apple's stock price at $191.45 per share.
And if you want to affect the stock market, or if you want to influence different things, you could just make her say something else.
The market closed today with Apple's stock price at $182.25 per share.
So, this technology is quite useful in terms of creating content, so you don't need to reshoot like, I don't know, newsreader, that you don't need to reshoot for every different content, but you can just use a recorded material and then reuse it. But this can also use to influence the stock market, or you can influence a CEO saying completely nonsense things to reduce the market price. Or you can say, put this verse into some prime minister's mouth that actually can even start a war. And this is a technique that is I'm showing for the first time in this audience, this kind of a premiere, that doesn't require hours of training of a video, but you just need a single audio file to manipulate the target video. And here you see my colleague, and then here you will see Bill Clinton saying something, and basically you will just transfer to his face.
But I want to say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Ms. Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never. These allegations are false, and I need to go back to work for the American people. Thank you.
So can you imagine you just take audio clip of somebody and then you integrate to your face. So next thing you can do is a singer in YouTube that you don't need to actually sing, that you will be actually just acting as singing. Or you can put some historical speech into some politicians.
We have seen some encouraging and surprising signs of compliance.
So you may not see or realize a threat on this one because the sound and the visuals are from different people. But for those public figures where they have millions of hours recorded videos of theirs of sound, so what if you actually try to crop and make some meaningful sentences out of their voices and then actually use it with the same technique? And watch it.
I travel the country talking about change for America. Anyone who knows me knows these words don't reflect who I am. I said it, I was wrong, and I apologize.
Okay, you can easily imagine this is fake because Donald Trump wouldn't ever apologize for anything. But this is just using audio clips of Donald Trump and merging into a single sentence and creating the fake. So, who can say in 2020 elections these techniques are not going to be used? So, we are already in an era that we do not have much control on the media content. But if such techniques or technologies are harmful and bad, why we keep developing it? The algorithms, the codes, the technologies are not bad or wrong. The intentions of the people are wrong. And that's why actually that we start to see harmful consequences of the technologies. And why we do it in our company is mainly to actually detect, because if we know the vulnerabilities of such techniques, that actually we can do better detection systems. Such as in this example that I mentioned, how beautiful, how good the end results of the ZAO application, you can still see, because if you work a lot with these generation techniques, you can still see vulnerabilities. I don't know if you first spot you can notice them, but if you look at the first image up there, that you see the teeth is different. So basically, since it's difficult to generate the teeth, they put a 3D renderer for replacing the original teeth, but putting artificial teeth in it. Or you can see, as I mentioned, the modeling of the lighting on these things are quite complicated. So they have to make some assumptions. And if you see on the original video, there is a shadow of the glass on the face, whereas on the generated image there is none. So it makes it so difficult to generate these complicated lighting factors. So knowing all these effects or vulnerabilities of these techniques, what we try to do basically make an explainable AI system which actually tells us why the algorithm thinks the face is fake. And with the help of this, we can actually let people to decide, because there will be more and more algorithms coming. And this detection technique is going to make mistakes. But at the end, humans should decide that based on the visuals or the algorithm, why it thinks that it's a fake content, that humans should decide looking at these evidences. Another useful application, I don't know, as all developers, I believe most of you watched Black Mirror episodes. And I don't want to give a spoiler, but there is one particular episode about it, which is called Be Right Back. And we have done a similar study in Netherlands with the help of therapists, the psychologists, and also Amsterdam Film Academy. So we shoot a documentary about how to bring a deceased people back. And the results are, I don't want to give a spoiler about it, but the results are impressive. That in spring, you will be possibly watching in Dutch televisions, that actually how helpful it is to talk to your deceased one once you had no chance to say goodbye to them. And a similar technique, which was used with a different, because we used real videos, but there was a similar documentary done in Korea, that it was released a week ago, that it was done in a VR environment. And here, basically, let's watch it.
엄마 어디 있었어? 엄마 내 생각했어?
맨날
나는 엄마를 많이 보고 싶었어.
엄마도 나 보고 싶었어. 우리 나연이 나연아.
This girl was diagnosed with leukemia at the age of 6. And he passed away at 7 years old. And her family didn't have even a chance to say goodbye to her. And with this technique, that researchers bring the kid alive so that actually family one last time say goodbye to their daughter. Or, in this example, I don't know who remembers Ice Bucket Challenge. It was in 2014. It was to raise awareness for ALS illness. And one of the symptoms of ALS illness is losing your own voice and ability to walk later on. And Pat Quinn was the founder of this movement. And he was diagnosed in 2014 with ALS. As all other ALS people, that he lost his own voice as well. And what does he feel about it?
One of the hardest things about ALS is losing the ability to speak. I don't want to sound like a computer. I want to sound like me.
Lucky enough that he was the voice of ALS people, so he has done a lot of interviews or YouTube videos and also public appearances that scientists actually could collect a lot of voice material from him that is actually used to recreate his own voice and give back to him. And this is after he receives his voice back.
It's a strange feeling saying your first words a second time. It's like you don't even realize how powerful, how personal, and just how unique your voice really is until it's taken from you. My voice was how I fought back against the very disease trying to take it from me. Sorry, I'm not going out that easy. I will make sure my voice is heard again.
And also beside these beautiful projects, such deepfake technology can be used for engagement of people, the students in education or in arts, such as a project done in Dali Museum, where Dali is actually hosting and welcoming people to his own art pieces.
Greetings. I am Salvador Felipe Jacinto Dalí y Domenech, and I am back.
So you can fantasize even more that when you go to a Louvre museum that actually with a VR environment that you start to talk to Mona Lisa or in Van Gogh paintings or Rembrandt. So you can even encounter more and more samples of the similar applications. And one recent work which was released almost a month ago in Las Vegas in the CES conference that is still ongoing project, which is called Neon. That's actually creating virtual human beings. And this is actually what we are going to see as the next generation of Siri or Alexa. That you will not be talking just to a voice, but you will be talking a real person. And this is actually quite going to be used actively in call centers, because you want to talk with a human. You want a human touch at the end. Or your next personal trainer on your mobile phone will be directly addressing you and communicating and understanding you. She will be trying to make an empathy with you. And this is exactly at this moment how it looks like. Or at the beginning of my talk that I mentioned, every year Hollywood spends millions of euros for visual effects. But what if, as a single developer or a film movie maker or a director, that you don't have these resources or budgets? And you cannot compete. There is an inequality at the basis of everything. That's why such technology can actually help the new talents without requiring a lot of resources to create their own new inspiring movies. Such as in this example, where you will see that you don't actually, or as a person, you don't actually need to know how to dance. But just using some figures or a choreography that you like it, you can basically make yourself dance like the other person. Here you will see on the left side the actual dancer, and this is a researcher that's actually being manipulated by the source video over there in the book. Another application that in here you clearly see that you need a source video to manipulate the target video. But what you're going to see now, you actually don't need, because AI is going to create what kind of music is there and what kind of dance should fit to that environment. And here we go. So what you see is basically only the audio file is given to the algorithm, and it generates what kind of dance should a person be doing. And I don't know if you're aware, but European Song Contest will be this year in the Netherlands. And next to it, there will be an AI song contest, where it actually all participants from the world will compete to their own song to create a music which is going to be judged by the juries. On this one there will be no visual generation, but at the end of this month there will be a hackathon which is organized by MPO, that actually Dutch team is going to make a visual generation of their own song as well. So if you're willing, feel free to join that hackathon. Actually maybe your video will be selected for Dutch national song. And as I said, I have been talking about the bodies and faces and things, but there are other aspects of deepfakes that it can actually generate. I will not be able to go through all to ask if this is fake or not, but these are all fake images which are generated by algorithms. And you can see that it is possible actually at this moment to create other items than bodies and faces. And as I said, it brings equality, so you may not have a zebra in your garden for your shooting in your movie, but you can actually record a horse and transfer it to be a zebra. Or you can record a daylight and actually you can convert it into different time of the day. Or the same for different time of the year. But there was also a very impactful project, or in my opinion, a useful project, to raise awareness of the refugee problems. That those people who had to flee away their country is not because they are willing to do that, but they are obliged to do that. And this deep empathy project is actually done for a similar reason, that actually you just need to upload an environment of yours, your street, and it turns to you that how it would look like under bombing, just to make empathy with those people. Or next generation of models possibly will not be physical human beings. They will be all generated like this in this example. That what you see is fully artificially created models. So the fashion industry will definitely benefit from such an algorithm. But what is also what I find fascinating in one domain is, yeah, I like the idea of giving the sound and then it generates, but there is a similar domain that you just give descriptions and AI generates the final image. You can see how it evolved from 2016 to 2018. So I keep questioning myself, why not to think next generation of movies is just entry of a book to AI algorithm, then it generates the whole movie itself. So after talking all about the deepfake creation detection, I would like to give, at the end of my presentation a little bit, that I would like to give a little bit of facts about deepfakes. There was a recent survey done by a Deep Trace Labs algorithm that's actually pointed out, since 2018 to 2019, there was 100% increase in the deepfake generation. And it already reached to 15,000 videos online that are actually fake. And what a surprise, that 96% of this content is pornographic. There are multiple reasons behind it, because I think the most available to consumers at this moment is just using the face swap, and that is easy for such content generation. But what strikes me, or yeah, okay, maybe not, I was not that surprised, but 100% of this pornographic content was made for females. So there is also discrimination over there. So what is that to protect us? I don't know if you recently that Twitter, Facebook, all these social platforms announced their policies against deepfakes. I don't know if you have seen them, and I don't know if you buy it. To be honest, I personally don't buy it. This was just a cover that they did something about it, but it doesn't touch even the surface of the problem. Because they just address this, here is the policy, they just say, this algorithm or this content should be generated by an AI algorithm, and it has to put the words in somebody's other mouth. Or, like in other words, it also says it needs to convince an average person that it is bad. But what about the Nancy policy, that video? It was not generated by AI, it's a cheap fake. And it's a content manipulation, and it is fake news. And they don't touch in that gray zone. Or, how do we know their policy of deciding what is a satire or what is not? Because they consider that satire is allowed, but I don't want them to decide on behalf of me a political decision that is actually given by them, and then they consider some of the content is satire, some is not. So there is a lot of gray zone. So what I suggest to do is reviewing somebody's other code, that you have to be critical. See it, but do not believe it. And maybe that's not actually a bad thing, because we need critical thinking society. Thank you.